Good morning, student, and how are you? I think you are safe at home and we continue on your study. Today we will start class 10 science part 5 of chapter 6 life process. Today we will discuss the respiration, and previous class we already discussed about the digestion and what are the different steps during the process of digestion. And now today we will discuss about the respiration. Before starting the respiration, we have to know what is the difference between the breathing and respiration. Generally, when we take gas and releasing also gas, it means exchange of gas means inhaling and exhaling. Only the process in which intake of oxygen and releasing of carbon dioxide. There is only the exchange of gas will take place, no other activity will occur. This process is known only breathing. Intaking of oxygen and releasing of carbon dioxide means oxygen from the atmosphere and releasing to the atmosphere. This is known as breathing. When the oxygen is used to oxidize the food, to break the food, to convert it into simpler form, or the glucose is converted into simpler form, and to get energy. Why we convert? Why we have to take the oxidation of food will take place? To get more and more energy. It means respiration is the process in which energy is released, whereas in breathing there is no releasing of energy will take place. Only the exchange of gas will take place. And now if the question will ask what is the difference between respiration and breathing, then you have to differentiate. Only exchange of gas, it means no energy release during breathing. And now breathing is the gaseous exchange. It means in human being what we do. Inhaling mean exchange of gas will take, inhaling mean oxygen will take inside the cell. Intake of oxygen from the atmosphere, it means this intake of oxygen means inhaling. The oxygen goes inside the body and mix with the cell, blood cell, which carry only the inside the cell from the atmosphere. And then releasing carbon dioxide. And releasing carbon dioxide means the oxygen intaking and releasing of carbon dioxide. And when these oxygen react, combined with the cell which is present inside the body, and that cell when move throughout all over the body, all over part of the organ, and provide energy to the sufficient to the organ which need energy. So that process is known as respiration. Only the difference is this one. So it means inhaling and exhaling will be breathing, and when the inhaling oxygen when react with combined with cell or the blood cell, and that cell move to all part of the body and give us energy, this known as respiration. Here the respiration breakdown of simple food in order to get the release. And how the respiration, what are the different type of respiration will take place? First, glucose, which has 6 molecule of carbon, and the formula of glucose is C6H12O6, and the 6 molecule of carbon, which we generally know this is the simplest form, which form after breaking down of food particle which contain the different nutrient, and these nutrients when break down and give us the simplest form of which is glucose, C6H12O6, and these glucose react in cytoplasm, which is present in the cell in between the nucleus and the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. It means the glucose, which is the simplest form of food, combined or in the cytoplasm, cytoplasm which is present in the cell, then what will happen when this glucose combined goes into the cytoplasm of the cell, then it forms 3 molecules of carbon. it means 6 molecule of carbon, which is glucose, that will break down and form pyruvate, which is 3 molecule of water, and the reaction will take place in cytoplasm. And cytoplasm, which contain different number of cell organella which perform the specific function, like mitochondria, and other so many you have done in the class, Golgi apparatus and lysosome. These are the different cell organella. In cytoplasm, these 6 molecule of carbon break down into pyruvate in 3 molecule of carbon, and which formula is C3H4O3 is the molecular formula of pyruvate. And this pyruvate will form in the cytoplasm. But what happened? This 3 molecule of carbon, when in absence of oxygen, it means this will react in absence of oxygen. It means there is no oxygen which take place in yeast. And the process, this type of respiration, cellular respiration, is known as anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration. The pyruvate when occur in yeast, which is present in cytoplasm and in absence of oxygen, and this process is known as anaerobic respiration. So that means, what is anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration is the respiration which take place in absence of oxygen. It means when it take place in absence of oxygen means releasing less amount of energy. It means which does not produce sufficient energy to do work, because blood does not having the sufficient amount of oxygen, in which you already know anaerobic respiration take place in absence of yeast and occur in yeast. Then what will the substance product will form? When anaerobic respiration, the product is ethanol, 2 molecule of carbon, and the general formula of ethanol is C2H5OH, ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. It means it forms alcohol in our body. In absence of oxygen, the pyruvate release, which is 3 molecule of carbon, release alcohol in our body and less amount of energy, and that is not sufficient to do work. It means our body is not fit. It means there is a more alcohol will form inside our body, and the reaction will, how the reaction will take place. Then reaction will, I will tell you. And then second part, in absence of oxygen, anaerobic, lack of oxygen, the pyruvate, which is 3 molecule of carbon, it will react in a lack of oxygen, means insufficient supply of oxygen. So oxygen is not in sufficient, and that will take place in muscles, and due to this reaction it form the lactic acid in our body, in our muscles, and these muscles will be cramped. Sometimes it will cramp due why the lack of oxygen. It will producing cramp, and also formation of cramp, and some noise will produce due to the lack of oxygen will take place, and this will only due to the formation of the lactic acid. The cramp form in our body, in our muscles, only due to the formation of lactic acid, which take place in sufficient supply of oxygen. It means what the reaction will take place? This pyruvate, which is 3 molecule of carbon, in insufficient supply of oxygen, in lack of oxygen, take place in muscles, produce lactic acid and energy. And the formula of lactic acid, which is also a 3 molecule of carbon, it means C3H6O3. C3H6O3, this is the lactic acid and energy. But in presence of oxygen, what happened when the pyruvate react in presence of oxygen, and this in presence of oxygen releasing large amount of energy, and this reaction will take place in which cell organella, which is known as powerhouse of the cell. It will take place, it will occur only in mitochondria. It means in presence of oxygen, that occur in mitochondria releasing large amount of energy, and this process is known as aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is the respiration which take place in presence of oxygen and occur in mitochondria and releasing more amount of energy in form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and which is the energy currency. Currency of energy is known as energy currency. A currency of energy is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and the byproduct are formed during the aerobic respiration or the product are formed during the aerobic respiration are carbon dioxide, water, and energy which excrete from our body. These three pyruvate molecule of carbon in presence of oxygen occur in mitochondria. This is known as aerobic respiration, and the end product will produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy, and it release large amount of energy as compared to anaerobic respiration. It means absence of oxygen and lack of oxygen. Generally we say the anaerobic respiration, and aerobic respiration will take place in presence of oxygen. And what is the difference between the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? And here I am writing the equation. What happened? You know, glucose first mitochondria and respiration. Glucose, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration take place in presence of aerobic respiration will take place in presence of oxygen. In presence of oxygen, anaerobic respiration will take place in absence of oxygen, and this will be produce more energy, and this energy will release in form of ATP, and this is releasing less energy in form of ATP also, but it is very less energy, and it will occur in mitochondria. It will occur in yeast or muscles or in cytoplasm. Generally it occur in yeast or muscles. We can write yeast or muscles. Yeast and muscles. And the end product are carbon dioxide and water, and the end products are alcohol and lactic acid. Alcohol in absence of oxygen, and lactic acid in lack of oxygen. And the plant exchange of gas will take place through the stomata, which you know, stomata are the tiny pores which are present on the surface of the leaves, and these pores help in exchange of gas. The plant exchange gas through the stomata and the intercellular space. It means there are large number of intercellular space in the surface, on the surface of the plant, that will ensure the sufficient supply of oxygen until they will not in the contact with the air. Plant exchange of gas through the stomata or the pores, intercellular pores space present in the plant, when they are ensured that they are contact with the air. When they will not contact with the air, there will be no exchange of gas will take place. Like in step also it will take place, mean lactic cell. And the second, oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide through the process of diffusion. And the diffusion, that will be diffusion, you know it very well, movement of the substance from a region of high concentration to the low concentration. Oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange through the process of diffusion, mean oxygen or carbon dioxide move either inside the cell or outside the cell. Move means from atmosphere the oxygen or carbon dioxide goes inside the cell, and oxygen and carbon dioxide from inside the cell goes to the atmosphere. This will depend upon the condition of the atmosphere or the environmental condition, where the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide is more. If the concentration of carbon dioxide or oxygen is more in the atmosphere then as compared to cell, then automatically there will be a oxygen or carbon dioxide move inside the cell. If the concentration of oxygen or carbon dioxide more inside the cell than the atmosphere, then it will be come out from the cell and to the atmosphere. Therefore, diffusion or the movement of this gas will take place only environmental condition. And next one is different organisms have different organs to respire. Different organ have to different respire, like fish having the aquatic animal which is respiratory or which has respiratory organ is gills, and human being is lungs, and other organisms have the different respiratory organ to respire or the to respire oxygen or carbon dioxide to get the energy. And first, aquatic animal and terrestrial animal. Terrestrial animal are those animal which live on the land, means which are survive, which where adaptation will take place only on the land. And the aquatic animal are those animal whose adaptation who lives in water, but some organisms which live on water as well as on land, that are known as amphibian. Amphibian are those organisms who lives in land as well as in water. But in atmosphere there is a concentration of oxygen is too much. More oxygen is present in the atmosphere. It means the terrestrial animal absorb or take inside the body more oxygen as compared to the aquatic animal which obtain the oxygen from water, and that oxygen which is present in water in dissolved form. It means concentration of oxygen in water is less than the concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere. Therefore, the breathing rate of aquatic animal is comparatively faster than the terrestrial animal. Why? Because they get less amount of oxygen from the water in dissolved form. Therefore, breathing rate of aquatic animal is comparatively very high. And this oxygen is very low as compared to the animal. And fish, how the fish take the oxygen from the water? Fish first take the water through the mouth and then force it to the gills, pass to the gills. First it take the water inside the mouth, and after this it forced to pass that water to the gills, and from that the gills it absorb the oxygen and mix to the blood, and which pass to the part of the body. Fish take water through mouth and force it pass the gills, where the dissolved oxygen take up by the blood. It means the oxygen from water not respired directly by the respiratory organ gill of fish. It means first the water take up by the fish, and then that water forced to pass to give to the gills, and from after that the oxygen from the gills that will be mixed taken by the blood, and that will flow to all part of the body of the fish. And fish is that we will discuss is 3 chamber heart or 2 chamber heart or 4 chamber heart. How many chambers they have, we will discuss in next topic. This is the respiration. Therefore, we have to revise and properly. How we have to write the equation in aerobic and anaerobic. Glucose. First is glucose. Here is glucose. We can write also glucose that will take place in cytoplasm. It is pyruvate. It release pyruvate and that will be in yeast. It will take in yeast, and that will yeast is what is released? Ethanol plus carbon dioxide and energy. Or also we can write the respiration reaction in this way. First, glucose that will react in cytoplasm, give pyruvate 3 molecule of carbon, 3C and 6 molecule of carbon break down in 3 in yeast in absence of oxygen, and it gives the product of ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. This triangle is represent the energy. Energy is very less amount. This respiration is known as anaerobic respiration. Again, glucose, cytoplasm, and that will give pyruvate, give in presence of muscle, here take place in muscle cell give the lactic acid and energy. It is also lack of oxygen or anaerobic respiration. In this, there will formation, cramp will take place in the muscles, and due to the formation of the lactic acid, and then glucose take place in cytoplasm, form pyruvate, 3 molecule of water in mitochondria, which is known as powerhouse of the cell. It means here is releasing large amount of energy. It take place in presence of oxygen. In presence of oxygen, carbon dioxide, water and energy. Presence of oxygen. Presence of oxygen. Absence of oxygen. These we can write also the reaction in this type.